Good morning, everybody. Unfrequented world, packing up the car for another metal detecting adventure. It's a beautiful day out today. The sun is shining, it's early, the birds are chirping. And if you guys can see in here, this is my typical setup for a day in the bush. We got a charging station. I got two waist belts full of pinpointers, sprayers, all my regular gear, extra batteries, all kinds of stuff over in there. Two detectors. We always bring the Cruiser and the Garrett AT. And I also have over here on the wall the Bounty Hunter Land Ranger Pro, which was the second machine that I swung. Why am I showing you guys all the gear? Because this week I've had 3 of you ask, can you please tell us the best detecting machine for a beginner? We've been over this kind of before. If you're new to my channel, you can watch every adventure I've gone on. I've been detecting 3 years now, and you can watch my first outing right through to the fabulous colonial stuff we find now. The first few outings was pretty junky, so I'm going to break this down for you guys. Very simple. I can only talk about machines that I've owned, but there are 4, and we can go through beginner right through to where I am now. Before we get into the machines, I want to talk a little bit about the hobby itself. Some of you are wondering, is this hobby for me? Well, put it this way, guys. If you like exploring, you like getting out, you're a physical person, you can bend over lots, get up off the ground lots, you don't mind working 3-4 hours, lots of walking, carrying gear. If you're a physical person, this might be for you. If you're not so much, it's not for you. It's a lot of work to do the detecting. We spend sometimes up to 10 hours a day walking miles into a place. You've got to go where other detectorists have not been if you want to find good stuff. And we're carrying all our gear, and then we spend hours up and down, hundreds of times a day. Digging holes in between. You need good arms, good forearms. You're digging 10-inch holes, 10-inch around, 10-inch deep, hundreds of times a day. If you like history, if you like exploring, those are the types of things that you need to have in your personality. That, you know, outside, being in nature, sunshine, rain, whatever the weather brings, if you like being outside, metal detecting might be for you. Now, if you like all of those things, but you don't like the physical labor part, then you might want to be the camera guy. There's a job for everybody. The first machine I owned was the Bounty Hunter 1100. Now, I'm going to suggest to you guys that you start out with a good, cheap machine like that. Here in Ontario, Canadian Tire sells those for, I don't know, 170 bucks or something. That price, don't buy it there. Twice a year, that machine goes on sale for $89. What are you going to get for $89? You're going to get a machine that will go down probably 6 inches maximum. You will find all the coins in the world with that, relics, whatever. It has 3 tones. So you've got a low tone for iron, a mid tone for brass and things like that, and then you've got a high tone for silvers and coins and things like that. So you will know 3 distinct tones with that machine. You're just not going to go very deep. It has a 6-inch coil on it, and that's a great machine for beginners because you spend your $89. It takes one 9-volt battery. You're going to get 30 hours on that battery, and you're going to know right away when you get through that first battery, is metal detecting for me or not? And if it's not, hey, you're out $89, and you can still sell that machine for what you paid for it. If after the first 30 hours and you change the battery in the 1100 and you say, hey, this is a great hobby, I love it, you might want to think about moving up. The problem with the 1100 is you're going to kind of know if the item is iron or something else. You're going to know the size of it. Is it a small item or a big item? If it's below 6 inches, you're not going to get it. At that point, you might want to move up. I moved up to the Bounty Hunter Land Ranger Pro. That's a $400 machine on Amazon, plus tax and whatever, so $450. A pretty big investment, but worth it. It's got a 100-tone ID on it. So you look at your visual display and it gives you a number from 0 to 100, and much finer picking out of what the item is. Is it really iron? Is it tin foil? Is it a coin? Is it whatever? Probably 10 different modes you can use on that. A true all metal mode, and that machine goes down 14 inches. I have comparison videos on my channel of that to the next machine I went to, which was the Garrett AT Pro. Now, the Land Ranger Pro is not waterproof. The visual ID and the tone ID on it is decent. I'm going to say it's probably a 7 out of 10. That is actually, for the money, one of the best machines you can get. Bang for buck. The only thing is, it's not waterproof. So I moved on to the Garrett AT Pro. I added it to the collection because I wanted to do water detecting. Here's the truth about water detecting, guys. It's an extra pain in the You're going to carry extra gear because you're going to need some kind of sand scoop. You're going to need a pouch that has holes that water can drain out of it. You can't use your regular drop my stuff in a pouch because you're diving under, you're ducking under the water all the time. Your stuff's going to get washed out. It's a completely different style of hunting. I've only ended up water hunting maybe 5 times. It's a lot more work. You're digging in the sand. You can't see what you're digging. It's just a much harder hunt. I don't find it near as satisfying. You're going to get about 1/10 of the holes that you normally get. It's very slow walking through waist deep water, swinging a detector. I don't find it near as satisfying. The only thing is that you can get to places, a water line, a shoreline, where maybe 100 years ago there was a camp and now the water has covered that camp. So places like that, the water detecting is indispensable. Rivers and streams and things like that. It sounds much more romantic than it is. It's a lot of work. However, you can also use your waterproof machines on rainy days and not worry about it. One of the guys who frequents my channel quite often has the Ace 400, the Garrett Ace 400. And last year, him and I went out and detected some old farmsteads in a downpour. Well, his speaker went after that hunt because he got water in there and the machine just wasn't the same. He had to send it in and get it repaired. So that's something to keep in mind. Those are a much bigger investment for the AT Pro. You're talking Canadian. I paid $750 plus tax, something like that. Again, that is a fantastic machine. I have reviews and comparisons on my channel. You cannot go wrong with that machine. That machine will go down 10 inches reliably for coin-sized items. Very easy to use. Out of all my machines, it is the nicest, quietest machine. It just beeps when you find something. The rest of the time, it's very quiet and easy to learn machine. The Land Ranger Pro machine, there's a lot of noise and static and background, and you've really got to work to figure out the signals that you're hearing. What is that? What's the background noise? What is around here? If you're in a trashy spot, very difficult to learn. But in the end, both of those machines are going to find you about the same amount of stuff. After 2 seasons, I moved on to my next machine, which was the Macro Cruiser. Why did I move on to that? Because I wanted to go deep. Here's the truth about going deep, guys. It's a lot more work. When you're going down 14 inches, it's hard not to get discouraged when you're on an old farm site and you've got that nice high coin signal and you keep digging and digging and digging, and all of a sudden you're down 14 inches and you find out that you've got a rusty old square nail, because that's what they ring up as, coins. You're going to do that a couple hundred times in a few outings before you say, oh man, I'm tired of going deep. So again, it's one of those things that it seems more romantic than it is. All the treasures buried way down there. Not true at all, guys. On a good site, we have a colonial site, and these 300-year-old items, cufflinks and jewelry. I found a little diamond piece the other day. That one was a little deeper, but a lot of the stuff at the colonial site is only down 6-7 inches. So you would probably get that stuff with the first machine that I mentioned, which was the 1100. So going deep is not always necessarily the best thing. If you're hunting a park that everybody else has been to, yes, then you want a Macro Cruiser. If you're going to go in town and find old silver and all these other guys have been in this park, you will find coins that they've missed. You're just really going to have to work for them. Macro Cruiser runs about $1,100. Is it worth it? Absolutely. I found things that I just would not find with the other machines. When I first started using it, and my other hunting partner, John, hunts with a cruiser as well, bought one on my recommendation, I believe it was. We went back to some sites we had done before, and we just started finding coins again, left, right, and center that we couldn't find. The sound ID and the visual ID on that machine is a notch above the Garrett AT. I got to give that machine probably a 9 out of 10 in terms of what you're going to find, or knowing what's there before you dig it. Very rarely do I dig tinfoil anymore because the machine, it's just precise. I know when I get a Scritchy 38, that's tinfoil on the Macro Cruiser. Where with the Garrett, that tinfoil will ring up into a coin signal, And with the Bounty Hunter Land Ranger Pro, same thing. It rings up into a good 70, 80 coin signal. You've got to dig those because you don't know what it is. The Cruiser, it just has a better system in there, and it's got a different sound, a scritch to it. It doesn't matter what machine you own, guys. You got to put hours into it. A few hundred hours into each machine to learn. Even the 1100, when you first get it, it's a workout. You're going to spend, to master that machine, a couple hundred hours. And the last thing I want to talk about, I almost forgot. Pinpointing. Absolutely. To pinpoint or not, absolutely. If you're going to do this, wait until you've done your first 30 hours, because the pinpointer is something that's going to cost you a bit of money. If you like the metal detecting and you want to make your life a million times easier, drop some good money on either a Garrett pinpointer, or I use the White's TRX. Both of them are excellent. You're going to spend $200 or $220 on a pinpointer, but if you're going to do this hobby every year, you want a pinpointer. John did this hobby for 7 years, and after hanging out with Stan and I for 1 year, and some of these colonial places, the items are very small. We were digging needles, little pieces of jewelry, fish hooks, and the detector's going off and you can't find it. It can be very frustrating. And many times, even coin-sized items, you will give up after spending 15 minutes on a hole. Pinpointer will help you immensely. My advice there, spend the good money. I have 4 pinpointers that I've owned. I started out with the cheapest. I'm not even going to say what it is. The reviews are on my channel. And don't buy a knockoff cheap garbage one. What happens is they false. They make beep, beep, beep noises when there's no items there. They fail very quickly. They're not waterproof or reliable. Buy a good pinpointer and you will be happy. So these are just some of the things I've learned over the 3-year tenure of metal detecting. I love it. I was hooked immediately. I knew from the first outing. I love history. I love trying to figure out in my mind, what is the story of this place? I envision the people, the children playing, the toys I find, the shotgun shells, the whatever it is, the dog tag, I play these stories in my mind, and that's why I do what I do, because I love history and I love puzzling out what life was like at this particular site. You don't do it for money. You're not going to get rich. Let's talk, in the 3 years that I've detected, in fines, I've probably paid off one detector, maybe $600, $700. I've found hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of coins. Very rare that you find, you get a few silvers. I might have 100 silver coins now, and they're worth, $3 to $5 a coin, just pretty much silver content in them. So you're not going to get rich. And the thing is, guys, if you're doing this hobby like the rest of us, like John and I and Stan, you never get rid of this stuff. It ends up in a collector bin in your garage, and your wife's saying, "What is that crap?" And you're like, "That's colonial," So people don't get it, and you never end up selling it. You don't do this hobby for money. So what have we learned? It's not a cheap hobby. It's a very physically taxing hobby, but it can be very enjoyable, and you can get a lot of hours spent out in the great outdoors doing this hobby. So if you've got a lot of time on your hands that you want to fill, this could be an excellent way to do so. And exercise, it keeps you in very good shape. So I love it. I can't say enough good things about detecting. It gets me out, it gets me going, and it gets me making videos, which is my other hobby. Photography and videography, you guys know that if you watch the channel. And for me, it's just the icing on the cake is finding the stuff in the ground, the history. So that's my beginner's guide. If you guys have any other specific questions or things like that, there's probably a lot of stuff that I've learned that you guys can learn with me from watching the previous videos, as well as all the great finds that I have. But I'm always giving advice on what settings to use on the machines and things like that, and experimenting and comparing the machines that I own. So if you want to learn stuff like that, just watch the videos that are already on the channel. But if you have specific questions, I'd be happy to answer those too, guys. Now, I got to get out in the field and make you the next in the field adventure. So I'll catch you guys in the next video.